along. We good? Everybody good?
Yep.
All right, welcome to discussion session for Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. We have one change to the agenda, but Ian will take us through.
Okay, so on the regular meeting agenda tonight, we have a proclamation and commendation for longtime Mount Lebanon resident John Delano, who recently retired after a illustrious career in the news media. So congratulations to John. We'll be recognizing him at the start of the commission meeting. And then we'll have our final meeting with our current junior commissioner, Abigail Sahida. So it's her last meeting with us today. And then additionally, we have a couple resolutions, one for a reimbursement of Series 2025 bonds for improvements to various municipal facilities. One is a standard resolution for a PA small water and sewer grant on Sleepy Hollow Road for a reroute program. One is the resolution ordering the installation of sidewalks on Woodland Drive. That's a project the commission has talked a lot about. Then the consideration of the contract award for the Woodland Drive sidewalk program, which you'll hear about those bids momentarily from our municipal engineer. Consideration of the award for the Meadowcroft Park Phase 3 contract, which we will also hear about shortly from the municipal engineer. And that is all on the regular agenda for tonight's meeting.
Great, thank you. Let's start with
Bids.
Gateway already in place.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a lot of bids to review tonight. So some good news, lots to report on, but the list that we have related to bids is so on the agenda tonight, we have a number of bids. Like I said, the first off, two projects that we'll talk about that are on the agenda for award tonight: Woodland Sidewalks and Meadowcroft Phase 3. Then at the tennis center, there's three different projects, the rehabilitation or three different contracts: rehabilitation of courts 1 and 2, pickleball, and the lighting upgrades. And then related to municipal buildings themselves, we'll talk about the boiler and the rooftop unit replacement bids that came back in. And then finally, we'll talk about the public safety center facade improvements and the maintenance repairs that are being done as a part of the parking enterprise fund. So with that, the Woodland bids, just a quick summary here. We were successful to get 6 different bids. They ranged in price from $489,000 to a little over $1.1 million. The low bidder was Escapada Masonry. They have another one of the ones on tonight in the amount of $495,318. The project included a base bid, which was just the actual sidewalks, and then an alternate bid price for trees to be taken down if we needed to. We're going to do all we can to save every tree on this project, including putting tree wells in. We're not going to change the width of the sidewalk. We're going to maintain a 4-foot sidewalk everywhere, but we are going to have to put in some tree wells and other things. It's a unit price contract. I talked to Phil about it. If we need to expand the units a little bit one way or another, we typically do that. So if we run into something, we'll have units to cover this. So the recommendation on this one, the bids did come in a little bit higher than anticipated. Our estimate was $450,000. There is a lot of traffic maintenance on a project like this because they're going to be trying to maintain 1 lane of traffic on Woodland as we move through the project. So I think that's what we're a little bit shy on that number. The concrete number came in where we thought it would be. We have to repair some driveways as a part of this, some small walls that we have to install. So again, this is the going number. We didn't see anything out of the ordinary here. So the recommendation is to award for the base bid and the alternate bid tonight. And part of that will be paid for by the residents in accordance with the street policy, and the rest of it will come out of the budgeted funds. The next one to talk about is Meadowcroft Phase 3 park bids. These came in well underneath the estimate. The budgeted amount was 409. The bids came in, 5 bids range from 230 to 317. We had some alternate items in there in the bids. I don't know if I want to get real fancy here. I'm going to stop the share on this one and give you switch mine. And now I have to share again. Ian looks nervous when I do this.
Children's pictures appear on the screen.
I'm gonna share back to you. Oh, here it is. Zoom's, I'm used to Teams. All right. So I just wanted to give everybody a recap on the plans, just so if you don't recall what we were doing with these plans. So make sure my cursor's over here. Okay, if you recall, the last phase we completed was the pickleball. This is the complete rehabilitation of the basketball court. We're doing basically gonna resurface the entire basketball court, basically rebuild it, but in bituminous, put a color coat on it, all new hoops, all new line striping. It's gonna look fantastic. And then there's some additional concrete work. All of this is old concrete that needs replaced. The connection over to the school here. And then in addition to that, we do have an alternate bid for a shade structure, which is going to be located over here for the pickleball. That was something that David asked that we include. So that came in good for that. And then we had other bids to take out additional trees as necessary that were not in good condition. So we're able to do that, put in the shade structure, do all the line striping, the whole enchilada. So,
Are those ramps coming down in?
yeah, let me get a
Ramp
little.
them so they're accessible.
Yes. Yeah, we have an accessible route in here. If you recall, we built this one up in this location right here.
Right.
It gets you down to this location, then we already have an accessible
That's
route
important there.
in this
Yeah,
location.
good.
Color coding, and then just gingerbread, and then all the details related to what's gonna happen. So the recommendation on this one, which will be on the agenda tonight, is to award the base bid order to bids 1, 2, and 3 at $325,712. All right, that's that one. So let me get back. Stop that one. Yeah, that was phase 3. This was just a summary of all the bids. Okay, next ones we're gonna get into are at the tennis center, the work at the pickleball courts. So we did this in two different ways. There's a lot of guys out there that can do paving, but not a lot of the guys that can do the pickleball work itself. There's sort of be a specialized thing. So we took bids on the paving first, and we got good numbers from T.A. Robinson, who's a local paver. We feel they'll do a good job. So T.A. Robinson will come in, take out the hard true, establish the base related to what we need to put the pickleball in. And then there's a second bid from CH&D related to the second bid was CH&D related to actually putting in the nets, doing all the line striping, everything else to complete the pickleball courts. So I'll talk about the financial on all three of these projects when we get to the end.
How many courts do we get out of this? 4?
No, I think we get 6.
6?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
The third bid that we took, and this one was higher than expected, everything with electrical seems to be coming in high right now. So the budget amount on this one was 309. The low bid was from Allegheny City Electric and the amount of 371. There was nothing unusual. We checked in on these, and this is just the going rate related to this type of work. So we're replacing a bunch of conduit throughout the center. This is highly in need. We're going to get in new lights that are modern lights that will improve the situation down there and get the lighting upgraded to where it needs to be. So if you look at the projects, all three of the projects, and we also bid the fencing. That was the fourth one. I'm sorry. We didn't get any bids on the fencing. So when you look at these projects in total,
There we go.
when you look at these projects in total, so if you add up the budgeted amounts, tennis courts 3 and 4, the lighting 1 and 2, the fences, and then we throw in soft costs, which is the engineering, the survey, and then the bidding. We had a construction budget of 250, and the total budget was 250. The estimated cost to complete the projects, not including any of the fencing, at this point is 152, 248. So there'll be approximately 63,000 left for fencing in 2025. Additional budgeting for fencing was done is in place for 2026. So we're going to go out and use the CoStars project to do the fencing this year, get as much done as we can with whatever's remaining in the budget. And then next year, we'll take a shot at the fencing again to finish that up with the remaining funds. So we reviewed that with David and with Keith. Everybody was okay on that approach. So we won't we'll come to you with these bids at the next meeting, but this is the general approach. If you have any questions, we can talk about that. But I describe any work down at the tennis center. It's always difficult to get people to bid the work because they're busy working on country clubs and other private places, and it's tough to get them to get bonding and everything else. We've had this issue with putting in the other courts, the paddle tennis courts, anything that we've done down here. So I'm just happy to get bids. I mean, we broke the tennis, the improvements to the Hartrue out into different pieces and beg people to bid on the work because the Hartrue guys want it in a specific way. If you're going to get them in, they're on the CoStars thing. So it's a complicated, it's really challenging to get people to bid on this. You would think it would be easy, but it's not.
Oh, go ahead.
As soon as you say bond,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I like
prevailing wages,
Yeah.
that always kicks it to another level for certain contractors.
So you are gonna get fencing done, even though
We're not gonna get the full 131. We're begging, we're using part of that to do these projects.
Okay.
And then we'll do some of the fencing this year and we'll do the balance of it.
Essentially?
No, we would go out, there's a CoStars project and Rudy suggested this when we didn't get anything. Most of these guys are doing CoStars right now. Just go to them. He uses them right now for some repairs on things. So he suggests we just go to them. We piggyback with whatever work he's doing this year.
Okay.
And then
Got it.
next year we'll
I understand.
give it a shot again.
Yeah, because we're fencing.
Yeah.
I know.
Can I chime in here real fast? So just so you know, the fence project is budgeted 262,000 over 2 years. This is the first phase. So however they decide to slot it, this is part of the bond, and 262 is being taken out in bond issue money for this project.
Okay. Got it.
Just from my understanding, if we're only doing partial fence work, is that, like in my head, I'm picturing a fence like that stops where it shouldn't. But are we saying there's money that
We're
needs to
doing
be?
fabric repairs and pole
Okay.
repairs. You
So
can
that-
do everything within the fence and then finish the fence at the end.
Got it, with the rest of whatever he's doing.
Correct.
How can you have tennis balls in the street or?
No, we're not gonna be without fence,
Okay.
no.
Okay, that makes it much clearer, thank you.
And there's existing fence there now, so it may just be less of it gets replaced than what the full
Mhm.
scope was.
Understood.
In the initial year, the
Yeah.
following year, more of it will get done.
Finish it, okay.
Got it.
Okay, moving on to the boiler project in the rooftop unit here at the municipal building. We did well with this in combining these projects together. We did a base bid, if you recall, and we also did a bid for the controls at the Public Safety Center. Again, they need all new controls there at some point in time within the next 3 years. So the base bids range from 568 to 751. Our opinion of cost was 538. The budget was 660. So we have ample funds at 568 to do just the base bid work, which would be replacing the boiler, replacing the RTU, which are the most important things right now. So if we just do that, we'll be under by 92,000. If we do the alternate with the controls, we would be over budget by 169.28. So I wasn't sure, again, this is something to think about, whether that commission would like to get these projects all out of the way right now, and this additional 169.28 we put in the budget. We don't have to do it. We could bid the controls independently again next year or down the road. They're just something that's gonna need to happen right now. It would be nice to get them done at the same time by the same contractors doing everything else. We can hold them accountable for it all. But if we do it after the fact, that it can be done too. It's just a little more control. So the recommendation on this one is to either bid the base bid or bid the base bid and alternate number one. We really bid the controls just to get a number and have a budget number for it going forward too.
right.
So it's optional. All right, so
Does
that's
the
that.
commission have any thoughts on that since it's anticipated for award at the next meeting? Does the commission have a preference which you'd like to see?
Stay within budget.
Yeah, but I don't know. Are any of the parts foreign made?
I'm sure there's some electrical components that are.
I mean, you might wanna go ahead and get it done and we have money, extra money anyway.
It seems to me, if I'm hearing Dan, the efficiencies of just doing it all at one time.
Well, more
That
so,
saves you money.
more so it's
That's the
like,
idea, it's like, you gotta get on site once, you're gonna get on site
Yeah.
twice.
Right.
It seems to me just gets everybody on site once, do it.
yeah, boiler, you put in boiler, they have to balance it, everything else, the controls all have to work, you make sure the temperatures are all right. I mean, it's nice to have it all under one roof. I was gonna do it, like I said, it's not gonna get any cheaper. You got everything under one, and then this item is wiped out and done.
Especially with money coming back.
My suggestion is to do it all at one time.
Can we just ask Andrew to give us numbers and make sure that we have money? Not you, but Andrew McCreary,
Yes, we have money if you'd like to do
the
it.
voice from on high.
Yes. we have money if you'd like
Thoughts?
to do it. Am I not talking?
Louder?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're good.
Do it.
We're good.
Okay, do
I
it.
think he said we have money, we're good, yes.
I would just do it. I mean, this isn't the kind of thing that
This is the,
it has to get done at some point anyways.
yeah, I'd rather just get it done. It's, we're gonna end up, tying ourselves in knots and spending extra money. And the money, we have the capacity right now.
yeah, and you're managing 3 contracts under
Yeah.
one contractor.
One contract,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
efficient.
do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm. Is it, are you okay with that, Craig?
RTU, I can't believe it's RTU.
Yeah, Rick's not the
I
engineer. I had to
know, you
look
got
up
3,
myself.
right, that's a big.
Not a mechanical engineer. Okay. The next one is a public safety, center, or public safety building facade maintenance. So what, Kevin, our engineer, did on this one was we took bids, with a base bid and then alternates to do, the other sides of the building. So we bid, base bid was the front, and then we did the two sides in the back. Our bids ranged, from 39 to 84,030 for the base bid. The alternate bids, all alternates were 116,000. So I believe in terms of budget on this one, the budgeted amount,
100,000.
100,000, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't see behind the screen. So there's no reason to accelerate this any further, any faster. So we're recommending just staying under the budget and be in at the 93,330, which will get us the front and then the two sides. So we'll have one more phase to do when we're
Okay.
complete, so. And then finally, the south garage, the annual maintenance project there, where we're trying to keep the building limping along until we get to the time when we have to replace it. Again, the same action on this one. The low bidder, 191. Our opinion cost was 225. The budget, is under budget. The budget was 250, so we're under budget on this one. And so we just recommend, that we award the bid of the, 191, 700 to Escada Masonry. They're the same guys that are gonna do the Woodland sidewalks.
Have you had experience with these guys?
Yeah, St. Clair's got a sidewalk project with them right now, and
Okay.
they've been doing okay, so we're watching that, and
Okay.
they seem to be on the ball and know what they're doing.
Yeah, I just haven't heard of it. That doesn't.
I have
mean
not, I've not either.
Yeah.
I had the references checked, and
They've done smaller projects too. I've seen their trucks
Have you?
in the neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, can't vouch for their work, but I've seen trucks.
that is it.
Groovy.
Yeah, and since you're here, I know the commission was very interested in the storm sewer and sanitary sewer updates.
Yes.
Because that is a run through of a lot of projects we've been working on over the last few years to improve both of those systems. So if we want to jump ahead since you're here and work on
Sure.
those now, or
Sure.
roll through those now.
Skills. There. Okay, I called this sewer priority update, tried to answer some questions that the commission had related to what we've been doing on the priority sewer issues in the community. So So we're trying to number one, update you guys on where we stand related to the ice spots and the priority list that was issued in 2022. Then provide you with a general update on completion of projects from storm and sanitary priority lists, which we generally try to hit every year. I mean, we're obviously addressing sanitary sewers in a huge fashion related to all the lining and the consent order projects that we're doing. But the storm sewer projects have fallen a little bit behind because we're waiting to catch up on the additional fee that the commission decided to add to that and letting that fund build a little bit and not going into a deficit related to that fund just to grab projects immediately. So let me just start out with the ice spots. You know, the commission put money specifically into the ice spots a number of years ago. We prioritized a total of 18 locations. In the ones that are addressed in yellow were ones that we have taken care of out of there. There were almost 1.8 million in sort of priority list related to that. I will qualify these, and Rudy said that, you know, things change from year to year depending upon conditions. We have gotten the most priority items. I mean, this year, Public Works, even with the cold snap that we had, you recall, we did get below freezing for a while. There was nothing significant that they had to deal with. But our biggest one left is the project that we have at McCully and Cochran Boulevard. We're ready to go on that one as soon as we're able. That would be the next one that we would go after individually for an ice spot list if we were going to do it. So these are the ones that are still out there. I'll give you my recommendations a little bit further on sort of the approach that Rudy and I agree upon. We talked about McCully being the highest priority one. And then, you know, we talked about the availability of stormwater funds. I mean, this year we're doing a big project on Orville Boulevard that's been out there for a long, long time. Because we're doing street reconstruction, it's most efficient to do the work during that time. So we're really spending the biggest available amount of funds on storm sewers this year related to Orville Boulevard. And we're shutting everything else off until we have the ability to, you know, have more money to be able to do.
Yeah, for anybody who reads this list, you know, 1, 2A, 2B, and so forth. Is that in order of priority or just that's the list of 18 spots?
No, I'll give you that list. I'm gonna go over that. That's in the presentation.
All right, just because I'm looking at
Yeah.
the first three and going, well, those were not listed as the highest priority, so I just want to make sure. Perhaps these are
They
listed.
were related to types of problems, so like,
Right.
one was a sanitary overflow, then we had storm, it's got a-
Yeah, one A is the worst. That's where we have project to find where there's damage occurred to occupied structures due to a backup in the sanitary sewer.
Right, this is just
Yeah.
your list where it refers to item 1, 2B, you know, that's.
Yeah, that was a priority list. That wasn't necessarily that's confusing. I understand where you're coming from. You know, we have it listed. Yeah, I say it was a number, 1, 2A, 2B, 3, and I think what we did was we added some of these in after the fact. I don't know how we got with that nomenclature, but that's not the same nomenclatures we had related to actual issues that we do. We prioritize. This is our priority.
So this is not an order of priority.
Yeah, I apologize.
In,
for
in,
confusion.
in 2018, we created the overall problem list in response to those storms. That included some of the priority designations that Dan has up here. Later on in 2022, because some of those from 2018 did include areas that were in fact ice spots, because Rudy and team drove around and said, hey, we've got ice spots at a lot of these things. So we added that to the list. So I think it's a combination of what you see from the 2018 and then carry over into the 2020 ice spot dock, which some of which was also tagged with those 1A, 2A.
Right, I think this list here on these 2 pages, it's a listing on it, but not necessarily in order of priority.
Right.
So even though
Yeah,
it's number 1 versus number 18, that's not reflective of the priority, it's just how they kind of sorted on the list.
Yeah, and I believe that the commission took undesignated fund, portion of undesignated fund balance that year.
Yeah.
And we applied it to what, out of this list, what we thought we could get done in, you know, in the quickest, most appropriate way to get it done. So that was, the commission gave us direction. We gave you a whole list. You gave us some money. You said, go out and get them done. And we got them. That's the way we approached it.
And Dan, I don't know if this is in your presentation here, but I'll just ask it. So one of the reasons we asked for an update on this was, so the list, the Excel file that we have that we've been keeping track of had 104 ice spots. And what, at least in the fourth ward, generally I get complaints about this in the middle of winter because that's when these problems present.
Yes.
So the kind of impetus for the conversation was, let's talk about it when we have the ability to fix it, which would be now or over the summer. So my questions related to this were like, how many ice spots of that 104, you know, 1, do we actually have more ice spots now? 2, of the 104, how many are fixed and how many do we need to still fix?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously rely upon Rudy and Public Works, and Rudy and I's discussion with this is that he is comfortable that like, you will have you will have certain conditions where ice spots come out of nowhere and because of the hydrology, and we had a really wet fall, and then it carries into the winter, and everything's bleeding out, and it's just a real mess. That doesn't happen every year. The ones that are consistently there every year, I think we've made a major dent in those. And what we continue to do is when we do street reconstruction work, we run roof drains parallel to that. We're not letting the roof drains come out at the curb anymore. We're putting in where we can, and we've been able to do a lot of it, is we'll put in a roof drain collector line right behind the curb.
Right.
Connect up all
Yeah.
the roof drains, bring them to the storm sewer, they never get into the street.
And Rudy's mentioned it, when we've talked about this, he's mentioned that, and he's, in some of those instances, he's told us he didn't think, like ice spot number 57, he didn't think was gonna be an issue anymore. That kind of stuff. So I was just kind of looking for an update on.
Yeah, I mean, I'll come back to you. I didn't quite, I was trying to approach the question. I should have probably called Chaz specifically, but when Rudy and I talked about it, we got out the priority one, which was the top 22. And we still have, they're still on the list, the top 22. So I would say number 154, or number 54 is not addressed yet.
Mhm.
I don't think that we're scrambling to say that we need to do that right away. I think our approach is that, like the McCully one, we got to get to that one at a certain point. That's an individual project. If you recall, some of those ice spots list ones required spending $250,000 to bring a storm line 1,000 feet away and bring it up just to catch an ice spot.
Right.
That doesn't quite make sense. We can maintain that for a little while until we get to that point where we do the other infrastructure and bring it along up.
But the hope is to spend the dollars, the most properties for the least amount of dollars.
Right. And when we have the road opened up, when we open up the road.
And then it's easy to do. You
Yeah.
already
Yeah, well,
take the
that,
curb
right,
out,
I
you
mean,
can
in
go
the
put some
meantime,
behind
it's
it.
trying to be as efficient as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, I think what we're saying, and to answer Craig's question is, that at least from Public Works perspective, they're not maintaining an inordinate amount of these, the ice spots. The only one they identified, well, the most important one we have to do is McCully. And then again, we can continue to pick those off as we do street reconstruction. And then if one erupts at a time, or it becomes a problem child, hydrology changes, hydraulics change underground, then we can always jump in with the ability with the storm sewer fund and grab that as a priority to do that as the fund builds a little bit more. I mean, the commission should be applauded. I mean, like I go to so many communities and they, when I tell them how much work that we've done here and how many problems we've addressed in terms of, with having the fund available, it's amazing, and, so I mean, that's where it gets into this, again, I also brought in the priority list, we have the 1A, the 1B is where we have, that's stormwater, damage, to find where there's damage to an occupied structure due to lack and the number of existing storm structures or capacity in the storm sewer system. So that's where we've had to add on, to make the storm sewers bigger, such as we did down on, Long Ridge and down below on the private street down there. I can't
Oh,
remember.
you're talking about Woodhaven and Forest Glen?
Forest Glen, yeah, Forest Glen, where we had to upsize the pipe. I mean, we haven't, we've had some significant summer storms. Those projects have been addressed. The bigger ones that have been addressed, we still have some of those phase twos and so forth on the priority list, but again, we've had some good tests in our stormwater system. I would say is pretty resilient at this point. We're looking to make it more resilient as we need to. And then the priority 3 was, again, where there's no damage occurred, how the stormwater system would improve Public Works operation, for maintenance, so there'd be less maintenance that they would have to do. So, as we look at all of that, I just defined here, just in the past, since 2020, there's a list of the amount of stormwater
Yeah.
projects that were completed. Like in 2020, there was almost $1 million. 2021, 767,000, 2022. And I think some of this is related to, but we had bond money or additional. 2023, we did 245. And then we've wound down because been waiting for the fund to build back up. Or we've been doing most of the work within the budget of any stormwater work's been done as a part of the street reconstruction project. So remember, a big chunk of our stormwater budget's eaten up by curbs every year too, and those
Yeah.
curbs are increasing in cost.
Of course.
So, I think there's been a lot of work done, but then I'll go all the way back to 2019. I think this is the one where we had the really bad storm. A lot of things erupted both on the storm and sanitary side. And if you recall, we had like a short-term capital list. We had Shadow Lawn was a real mess. We had work on Mohawk, Thornwood, Thornycroft, McFarland. We took care of this whole entire, I believe the entire list was taken care of. This is just a list of those that we were able to grab. So we took care of a bunch of those. I think what I said here, we completed it in full. So that was in 2019, but still, when you look at our 1A list, so here's the 1A list, go back to the entire big list that we talked about. So, the ones in yellow we've addressed, there's like Arden we took care of, there was work on, I don't want to skip over one. The 3 Atlanta, I'll hold for a second, but we did work, Beverly, Cedar, some work on Country Club we did with the ditch that we put in over there, the big ditch off of the golf course. We had some surcharges and sanitary sewers and so forth that we did over there. So again, we've addressed a number of the 1A projects.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right,
So let me just finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Forget. Of the 1A projects, all have been addressed either with completed projects or solutions to address that are planned in the future. Disqualifying that like any of the major sanitary work, we've not dove into sort of doing something really odd because the biggest issue with the sanitary sewer is creating more capacity by doing the lining work that we're doing to keep the water out of the sewers. So like down on Atlanta Drive, we've not had any issues since that 2019 flooding. They're in a very precarious position down there. The best thing we can do is take water out of the system above it. And our projects to meet the gold line standard for the consent order are all addressing that. So we're spending multi-million dollars on these lining projects.
Yeah.
And Dennis is gonna come in the next meeting and talk about some of the metrics. I'm trying to get some metrics together related to how much water we're moving from the system as a part of this lining project and how we're measuring that and, what our goal is and where we've reached the goal. And we'll continue to report on that because as these projects are being done, we have to then do post-development flow monitoring. And then you have to wait for, you have to normalize the data and get it into a position that you can analyze it the same way and really effectively tell the regulators how much water you've taken out of the system. So we'll continue to do that and come back to the commission with progress on it. Dennis seems encouraged by what we've got so far. And on the other end, we have our grow grants going too, with all the monies we've been able to get out of the grow grants. There's probably gonna be one more round of that's gonna happen. So we'll continue to attack that for ability to do stuff. So I would just say, we're making progress on all fronts. Could we use more money and are there more projects? Absolutely, but we can, I feel at least, the commission is put so much into this, either through bond funds, through the stormwater fund, whatever, the sanitary money. We're spending as much money as anybody that I know is spending on dealing with these issues. And I think we're making progress. Your phones aren't ringing, I hope, with angry residents. People would like projects like Sam Taylor, but I keep telling them,
no,
that's not on our priority list,
no, I've told them the same thing.
Yeah.
So question, with all the roof drains that come out onto the street, when we redo a road, are we now putting in something behind the curb to capture it? And
Wherever we have a storm sewer that's readily available, we'll
we're
do.
doing that,
Yes.
okay.
We don't want to
Curious.
go a mile away, but if there's something,
Understand. Yeah,
something quick to do, we will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, I just wondered if it was one of our standards, because it makes sense.
Yes.
Much better than pouring the water out onto the street, but, yeah.
And if I recall correctly, I know we've discussed this in previous discussion sessions before, that a lot of the issues with the ice spots weren't
Yeah.
necessarily roof drains because
Yeah, sure.
if the snow on your roof melts and
Yeah.
drains to the street, it's gonna still be water
Right.
and probably get to a catch basin somewhere. It's been people who put like sump pumps in their basement. So I know we've done some proactive things from the building inspection side through, code enforcement, building inspections office and the engineering side. When we review, homeowners' plans for, sump pumps and things like that, or requiring, people to put sumps in front yards, things like that with shut-off valves. I know we've had a couple like that we have, some that have shut-off valves in them, so they,
Putting the underground hole.
yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff that Rodney's getting in on individual building permit applications, people
Yeah.
are, they are just stretching every inch of their property to do stuff. So we have to make them do new stormwater.
Right,
So we don't have an
And-
available storm sewer to connect at the curb. Our only alternative is we'll put a shut off valve at the curb so that if it starts to run in the wintertime, we can shut it off
right,
and it stays on their side of the property.
right.
So
And they're building retention.
short term, and then we can eventually pick them up, and maybe not in my tenure, but at some more down the line,
Yeah.
catch up with it.
Makes sense.
And for, I mean, it's Commissioner Grella will remember, it's more from new members of the commission, that it was in 2018, we used our rainy day fund for those rainy day projects. It was a very committed effort. We said, gotta deal with this. We took some money out of unassigned funds to address this stuff. There may be
Yeah.
some dramatic event forward that we have to do that, or the commission has to do that again, but that would be time. I don't remember the exact amount of money, but it was a significant amount.
Yeah.
Yes, then we took out these sort of projects.
Well, in May of 2018, we had a storm that exceeded the 100-year storm. And then in September of 2018, we had a storm that statistically shouldn't have, but did exceed the 100-year storm. And then we did the same thing in 2019, and that caused the problems that we had. So
Yeah.
that's why we did that. But so on this, so I was just looking at the original sheet, which Joshua was keeping up to date as of it looks like end of 2022, but, so I'm just counting 54 projects that were listed as the priority projects, either 1A, B, 2, or 3. So, and a lot of those had notes because each of those ice spots, again, at the time, there were 104, 54 of which were priority. And then Rudy and his team had actually visually inspected all those. I would assume Joshua was around there with him too.
Right, yeah, we take their. report.
Yeah, but we've got very specific notes about what the problem is, what the recommendation, whether they would require easements to fix or not easements to fix. And then some of them that we knew that we weren't gonna work on because of what you mentioned previously, the cost. Because some of them were literally hundreds of thousands. Like I remember we took care of one on Shady and Castle Shannon, it was like 20 grand. Which not that it's not a lot of money, but relative to some of the other ones we were looking at. So that's kind of what I was looking for. So some of the priority ones specifically say Public Works to review and to monitor. So that's kind of what I was looking for, like on the ones where Public Works says monitor and maintain on an ongoing basis, I'm kind of looking for that.
Okay, we can come back to you with that.
Yeah, and if we're focusing on the priority, that's fine, because I know we have a lot of them, but maybe we can get that update like in a memo or something on the priority, the 54 or so priority projects. Some of them may have been completed. Cool, thanks.
It's interesting, Commissioner Grella is, as I think this is fantastic, right? The work happening is phenomenal. I think about the broader right-of-way discussion, right? And how do we do this as efficiently as possible? If it's a 1A project, it's gotta get done, right? And it's gonna rise to a priority regardless of what else is happening in the right-of-way. But if I've got, 10 level 3 projects on the same street, now I'm not saying it's all this, it could be Woodlawn with sidewalks.
Yeah.
Right? It's not necessarily a priority. It doesn't have to get done, but in the amalgamation of all these right-of-way items that need to get addressed in this one area, how do we understand the efficiency of going in and doing work collectively, right? Because again, I've got stormwater, I've got sewer, I've got reconstruction, I've got sidewalks, I've got, a whole series, traffic calming, got a whole series of things. Is there a way for us to, get a line of sight on the overarching management of the right of way so that we are able to understand how to efficiently spend our dollars by, going in at one time as opposed to, we've got sidewalk projects over here, curb projects over there, stormwater over,
Yeah, well, I would say that the reconstruction project is really the head of the dog. I mean, that's driving everything. I mean, when we look at ripping up the street, that's our most expensive and biggest
Right.
project that we do every year. So of course, we try to do that efficiently. We try to do the stormwater work when we're in there. What more could we do if there's sidewalks that need done or we're replacing curbs, so that's not even an issue. So I think we are holistically looking, when we rip that street up, we better do everything we need to do. We take a look at the sanitary sewers, all the storm sewers underneath it, anything that's there, do it all while it's open. But that's our driving force. Now, other things that we've talked about to do within the right of way, if we wanted to layer those on top of that, I know that, mobility board and other people have been talking about other ways to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, for me, it's the right of way is really expensive, right? And every major time we dig, it's expensive. So how do we make it as efficient as possible to, reduce disruption, reduce the overall expense long-term, right? And again, it could be 5 small projects.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 5 small projects done once is a lot better than 5 projects over 5 years, right? So I just don't know how we kind of frame
Well,
all of that information into one process, but.
To me, even mapping out all of these on one map and looking at like a heat map where you're,
Yes.
Right.
that's a way to do it, to prioritize it. But we can think about that a little bit more. I'll talk to Rudy and see if we can come up with some sort of an exhibit to show that. In the meantime, we can get back to Commissioner Grilla's question on the ice spots.
Yes.
So one other thing we didn't mention on the stormwater front is the investments we made down at the Public Works facility by putting in that whole bypass swale.
Yes.
To really help address some of the flooding issues that we had down through Cedar Boulevard, past Morgan Drive and Greenhurst and all those. But I think that's made an improvement through that area too.
Oh, yeah, and we took the Public Works building out of the floodplain.
Yeah.
Most importantly, made a multi-million-dollar investment down there. We don't want the building flooding. I have another client whose municipal building floods and they should have made it higher. Hate when that happens. And in this case, we took the water away. And that, it's a good thing to have. In an older community, I'm all for stormwater management wherever we can do it. And we're doing it little piece by piece on everybody's property when they're doing expansions. But, unfortunately, we grew up before stormwater management was about. So we're about just trying to get the water to the conveyance stream. So it's about,
That's right.
it's about capacity and about resilience in the pipes and making sure they're big enough so people don't get flooded.
Yeah.
That's, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot more we can do that isn't just out of craziness.
Did you ever see the map? You remember when Houston flooded so badly? They had an interactive map online where you could put in your streets and it would do the amount of rainfall that had happened in Houston. And since I live on Connecting, Park Entrance would have flooded for those Houston numbers of rain.
Yeah.
Scary stuff. You look at it, you're like, yeah, I wasn't. Above the hill.
Yeah, it's good to be on in a community named Mount.
Yes, it is.
Be high, be high.
Yeah, be
low.
high, don't be low.
Top.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool,
Thanks,
thank you.
Dan.
All right.
So it's 7:30 right now, and
Do updates.
we have a IDA meeting.
Right.
That we kind of have to have a hard stop for that, so I think we should skip over, and Eric Rob's not here, he was sick tonight, so he was answering. So I think we should skip the fleet efficiency policy for
Okay.
tonight. Is the commission good if we just do that as a memo and just summarize that for the group?
Yes, sounds good.
Okay.
So we'll head to boards and authorities.
Tomorrow, Connect is coming here. We are hosting.
Tomorrow,
the,
Wednesday.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Thursday, I apologize.
All right.
I was getting messed up. So Connect is coming here, a member meeting, and a board meeting. You are all more than welcome. We'd love to have you here. Staff should be welcome to join as well, for the member meeting. The meeting is at 10 o'clock in the morning. Topic is, very heavily around storm, related issues, coordination. Again, because this is a multi-municipal challenge, that is a big topic. So we'll be spending quite a bit of time talking about coordination across municipalities, across utilities, and how to more effectively work together as a region. So that's coming up. Mobility Board met. I was unable to attend due to other obligations, but they are moving a whole variety of items forward. Shady Drive West brought forward the residents brought forward a proposal for a whole range of traffic calming things that they would like to see. So they drew pictures and wrote out a whole narrative, and they got a whole petition together. So that went in front of the board. I believe they're going to review it and decide whether they would recommend it for consideration at the next meeting. So we continue to have concerns about traffic, parking, parking on street overnight, and traffic enforcement. Those are issues that are consistently being raised by residents. I have spoken with Manager McGill about being interested in having the police periodically attend to hear these items themselves.
Yeah.
I think that will probably need to get raised again, because I think this is, while again, I think you all know I'm a believer that there are other things in enforcement. Enforcement is a key piece of this puzzle. And we need to make sure that the police are hearing what the boards are hearing.
I'd also like to hear kind of what their response with the police, there's money obviously for people to go around, take pictures of license plates and such. So I'd like to hear what the police's comments back to those complaints, what they're working on, what they can do better, if they need funding, whatever. What are the next steps as a result of?
Agreed.
I think the biggest failure during the storm was 911 collapsing. Is that going to be addressed on what level so that that doesn't happen again? Couldn't get
I
through.
would have to defer to chief who might have an insight on what's happening at the county, or the chiefs, that we have two of them.
I like the chiefs.
They might have perspectives on what's happening.
I mean, from our perspective, obviously, we're going.
Come on down so it's easier.
So you can make sure you're on the screen. Come on.
That's all right. Shake your heads or anything.
Yeah, thank you. So, no, obviously, the storm is something that both Chief Christopher and I have spent a lot of time over the last, since the event happened, working together with our teams. And really, I think it was a really admirable response on all fronts in terms of how that went locally. I think we're pretty proud of that in terms of how we worked together and really established unified command early and really did a lot of textbook things to get the right resources to the right folks. So, we've really done a deep dive internally. And so we're going to be meeting on Friday to do a deep dive collectively. And so we'll be meeting and really to understand sort of those shortcomings that happen, whether it's from regional and local assets such as 911, those other things. We've been in touch with Chief Matt Brown through our EMA coordinator, Larry Sellender, and all of those things that really happen. So, from our perspective, we know there are shortcomings with that system. We also know that, in fact, we were getting it real time through Facebook and other social media platforms, where as much as I despise those platforms on a daily basis, that was actually a positive notion in terms of what that is. So there are benefits to it, and that was an example of it. So, that was something that we looked at. But again, everything takes resources. So every solution we've come up with really would require a whole nother level of reaction. Should we address?
Yes, but I would love to see us thinking about a system that doesn't take getting on a website with a password. The biggest complaint I had from many of our elderly and I'm one of them now. People was, there's a tree down in my front yard. I can't remember my password. I can't get through to 911. You know, what, can we activate a simple phone? For example, I know it isn't simple, but something like that phone response during times of emergency. I don't know, it's your problem to figure out, not mine. Just saying,
Yep,
make sure it's simple too.
We're actually gonna address several things, but in the years past, and this is pre-FiOS.
Yes,
We did have the ability to transfer lines. They were known as the 5300 lines.
yes, I remember those.
Yeah, so they may still exist.
Cool.
So that we might be able to
Yeah.
do that, but it doesn't help whenever the entire Verizon system goes
Oh,
down
yeah.
and,
Yeah.
you know, there's no phones at the public safety building or there's no phones at the municipal building, so.
Right.
Well, a couple things. One is, what went down, right? Was it volume? Was it some other factor that reduced the capacity of the call center? What actually was the?
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
I don't know.
Because I'd hate to try to solve
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
without knowing what the problem
I
was,
think there was
first of all.
an overrun. I think we heard numbers of 5,000 calls in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, when
Or
they-
staggering numbers.
And they could only handle like 500 or something.
Right.
Had 1 hour where they had 5,600 calls in that hour, and some call loads were as high as 1,000 a minute.
So it's volume.
And then they
Yeah, I
had
think-
power outages that affected the phone system.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just saying we need a redundant system and, you know, the old KISS, keep it simple, stupid, because, you know, the easier it is, the better. Sometimes those are the best.
Yeah, so we're working and we're really gonna put together a collective after action review. And that'll be one of the things we look at. It's one of the options. We'll
Yeah.
put together a couple of options and so, for you all.
Can you share that with us, like here in discussion, maybe?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can maybe set that
I
up
think
for
that
when
would
it's
look
done.
Yeah, we are looking forward to putting that together as well, so.
Yeah,
we'll-
just understand.
We should make that
Yeah.
a.
I'm just curious what people did before there were telephones. Let alone a central 911 system.
The house is burned down. I mean, there's that.
Well, no,
You know what I mean?
right, but at some
All
point,
sorts of
right,
things.
it's like there's emergencies and then there's, you know,
But we trained people, remember, when we did away with 531 5300, we said, don't use this number anymore, you call 911. Right now, if I want a policeman to report to my house because some kid is ding dong ditching me, I have to call 911. So we've already, when we
Yeah.
did that,
Right,
so
that was,
we
right.
need to think about what we're gonna do to, one, retrain people to do something different in cases of trees down. Or maybe we just build capacity in the system. I have no idea what the answer is, but it
And that's the
failed.
one system you
That's
don't
all.
want it to go down
failed.
when there is
That's right.
overrun. It needs to be.
I'm standing there in the street with neighbors texting all you guys, because I know you have your numbers. They don't. That's how we
Yeah,
got
yeah.
through.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
No,
That's, you
well,
know,
and again, we'll
it's
be
not your
pushing
fault.
that up. Yeah, and we'll be pushing that up. And you're right, you did the 7-digit, we did the, you know, back in, you know, when we all started this business, there were 264 emergency numbers in Allegheny County. at one
Yeah.
point.
Another-
Yeah.
And that was another one. That was really, and actually it came from a cardiac arrest in this area. to Really pushed that
Oh,
911
really?
system forward.
Which overall is a good thing.
Back when.
It is
Yeah,
a-
overall. it's a good
Yeah, it really
thing.
is,
It's just-
but
You can't have different 7 digits everywhere you go,
Yeah.
which ultimately was the problem. Now 10 digits, you know.
And part of the struggle in recent years too, speaking from personal experience, is that is that 911 also has become now the channel for they want all non-emergency calls to go through 911 if anyone wants public safety dispatched in any
Right.
respect too. So in an emergency event, when people have emergencies, people have not, like to your point,
Yeah.
Commissioner, have been trained to call 911 for anything.
anything.
People
So
are
they
calling
call.
911 and
Right.
I think to Laura's point, the system was just completely overwhelmed,
Yeah.
so.
But another storm is coming down the pike one of these
Yes.
days. And once again, we don't want them to be overwhelmed. In that case, something could have happened really bad. It didn't this time. You guys
Yeah.
were remarkable,
Yeah, very
fabulous.
good, yeah.
Thank you. But let's try to figure out what
Yeah.
to do about 911.
Well, I think there's just a conversation about utility lines, because I don't know
Yes.
what percentage of
Bury
the
them.
problem were caused by overhead lines as opposed to buried lines, but it's probably significant.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. Do you get rid of half those calls if we had underground lines, 3/4?
West
Donna?
Penn Power is starting to bury.
And that was, I'm looking at Laura because that was one of the things we heard about Mount Lebanon. More trees, why we had more issues.
Mhm.
And I'm not against trees, I'm just talking about this is what Duke and Light was saying, was why we wound up with some more issues.
Well, they
Perhaps
butchered
Upper
most
St.
of
Clair
the
had.
trees, so half of them falling down, was probably their fault. I said it publicly too.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it's true.
Let's, thank you.
Yeah, no, we'll get on that, and we'll get on also just to address your earlier comment, regarding the traffic report. We'll get it, we've been working very hard on that as well, so we'll make sure that we connect the dots.
Yeah, I think it's just creating some visibility on this topic. That's for everybody. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
You have been more visible lately, though.
Yeah,
I've noticed the police.
I have too.
Yeah.
Because you're breaking the law again?
I've been really good lately, kinda.
It's working very hard.
They are.
Yeah.
If I may just, I know some words and authorities, but I'm gonna put Chief Haber on the spot for a second here.
No problem.
Fraud, you were talking about, and I think it's,
Yeah.
let's start that conversation, make the commission aware, just as many, our vast audience. Was just went out the door. But the idea is that to let people know, you mentioned like certain mailboxes, I mean, really, let's.
Yeah, so we actually were working with the Public Information Office, and we're gonna be rolling out a campaign that's gonna be a three-pronged approach. One is gonna be information, the other is gonna be, front-facing, meeting publicly, in terms of different, what we call tripwires with the business community, where we can alert some of our business partners, where they can really have pinch points where our residents are going to a mailbox, et cetera, mailing things that are unusual. Where what happens is a fraud occurs, somebody goes to the bank and they take out an excess amount of money. So they're interacting with the public that is something unusual from their behavior. So what we're asking our business partners, mostly banks, mostly mail drop locations, to say, you know, really, we need that information, you need to alert somebody. And so it's almost like a two-party authentication. Anytime you're contacted for
Yeah.
large sums of money that we're advocating. And so what we're saying is if you get asked for money, anything over a reasonable amount, that you call somebody, that you have a friend, a relative, somebody else that you bounce that off of and say, is this right? Is this legit? What do you think from an outside perspective? And what these fraudsters are really preying on, I said this in my podcast, and really that, is that emotion of guilt and shame. Once you go knee deep, that you go deeper and deeper into the pool. And what they really prey on is that point, and we've had significant amounts of losses where people don't even report it because of the amount of shame that they have. And so that's the first part. The second part is the mail theft. We're getting a significant amount of mail theft from our outside mail locations. What we think is we don't think, we know 100% that there's been a compromise with the mail system. And what we know to be true is there's either keys out there or there's
Oh.
3D keys that were made, and they are taking mail
Wow.
from the outside mail drops.
Are you
And
talking
so
about post office
what's the
or like?
post
Yeah.
office?
Yes.
Yeah, I take all my
Post
stuff
office,
inside.
Yeah, so the post
Yeah.
office on Castleton
Yeah.
Boulevard and
Yep.
also the post office at Cedarhurst. We are noticing, and recently, this happened over the last 2 days, we're getting our arms around it now in terms of what that is. But there's definitely been a compromise at those locations. When you put mail in that box, you expect that to be safe. And we are here to tell you that in fact, at least on one or multiple occasions, it has not been safe.
Yeah.
And so that has resulted in a significant number of compromises of folks. And they're going back to age-old techniques of acid washing check,
Mhm.
replacing those things. They're going back to techniques where we have people that will get a check to John Smith. They will then get a fake ID of John Smith, walk into a bank and, you know, Anne Arundel County, Maryland, and attempt to be John Smith and take money out of that bank. So these are very quick, very technology-driven frauds. And they're happening at really at a pace that we're just getting our arms around now. So that is something that we're going to be doing and working with PIO to do that. And we're gonna have that campaign where we can have that, again, pushed out to the public. What we feel is the targeted communities that happen, again, the mail is different. The mail happens to everybody, but the frauds are typically our older residents.
Yep.
And so we want to reach them in ways that are meaningful to them. So Yeah, so we spent a lot of time on it, and we have a lot of people doing a lot of hard work in the background, and we've had a number of significant cases recently with a number of significant losses, which really, surprising everybody, but it's a shame, but it's continued to happen. It is a regional problem, national problem. Again, this is something that we've been dealing with for a long time, and we continue to work with our local, state, and federal partners to address these things.
On that, to that end, when it comes to the post office, isn't that a federal?
It is, but I think they're dealing with it at a level that they're swimming in it. And so I think that it is the postmaster's responsibility to control those keys, the physical keys. We had a breach, if you remember, it was probably a year or two ago, where an
Mhm,
actual
during the election.
grinder. Yeah, it was actually
People
like.
had ballots stolen.
Yeah, so that was actually like a physical intrusion, but what we're finding now is there's no evidence of forced entry into these mailboxes, but we know there's missing pieces based on a compromise.
Right.
So it has to be, the source has to be the external
Keys.
drops,
Yes.
based on, again, if you go into the mail carrier or into the post office itself, you miss that, you eliminate that piece and that potential for compromise.
It just seems with all the technology these days, you could do something other than hard keys to get into them.
Again,
I don't know,
think it's-
you know, I
Yeah,
know
I
it's
mean, I
not
think
us,
it's
but-
like you said, it's just a wide scale approach, it's a $9 billion operation or whatever it is over there that they have. And I think they're trying to get their arms around it as well, but we've definitely seen a compromise in terms of at that pinch point, so.
Chief Haberman mentioned the podcast. That was the April 4th episode of Inside Lebo. So for anyone interested in learning more about that, you can check out the April 4th episode of our Inside Lebo
Just listen to
podcast.
yours today.
Shameless plug.
Let's do quick boards and authorities and then.
Thanks, Chief. Both chiefs.
Well, that was my mobility.
There we go.
That's my opinion.
All right.
Library, I can do library. Here we go. Just wrapped up the plant sale, which I presume was once again a hit. And the garden tour is June 22nd. There are 8 gardens this year, so it's, a really wonderful thing. We are really grateful to the Friends of the Library and all of the volunteers that help because honestly, we have one of the best libraries in the state and a lot of it's this fundraising. There you have it. MRTA is ordering 2 new ambulances to be delivered. I think it's next year. We've.
The long lead time, we had to basically
Long
authorize it
lead
this year
time,
for arrival
yeah.
next year, and you will not pay for them until.
Till they arrive, and we're actually looking at then ordering the next 2 because we need to start replacing the ambulances. So I signed note things today for that, so. We have it.
Resiliency, we had a discussion on the vacant property ordinance again and just looking at different communities and kind of what their layouts are and what their experiences have been. The Historic Preservation Subcommittee submitted letters stating that they are not in support of a request along Beverly for a cell tower. And then we had a member that departed, Anna Siefkin. We certainly appreciate her service as she has moved on to another board, and we welcomed on Elaine Ilosevich Lazota. And next week the next meeting, we're looking at voting the new chair and vice chair and starting to look at the work plan for next year.
Outreach Team Family had their annual fundraising event last week,
Mhm.
which went pretty
That's
well.
fine.
Yeah. School finalized their budget. They have a vote on the budget on May 21st. So a week and a half. The budget is on board docs. That's where the school keeps all their information. They also listed 2 additional plans, one, which I mentioned last time, related to special education. They also published their student services program plan, which gets into things like, how many kids ESL, how many kids on IEPs, how many kids are in the gifted program, and then the summary of the services provided with all those different programs and how that might be different from years past. So you can check that out on board docs as well. They're actually pretty interesting documents, listing all the services that are involved, mental health services, things like that. So all those roll up under student services, are listed there. Then they have the special education services program plan and their overall final budget, which people can review if they want to do public comment over the next, week or so, or at that vote, they can do that. That's it.
IDA?
Yes, good, all right. So,
Constant excitement.
okay. Let's see, okay, so this is, we'll call to order the IDA meeting for Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. Commissioner Siegler, can you do item number 2? You have the list? You're on mute. If not, someone.
I don't have the agenda pulled up yet.
Okay,
Let me go find
Andrew's
it.
got it. Andrew's got
All
it.
right.
Who demerits, Commissioner Siegler?
Fair enough.
You know, everybody a drink.
Mr. President, I move to approve the minutes from the meeting held February 13th, 2024.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Public comment? Any public comment? Do we have anyone online for the IDA meeting?
Nobody has their hand raised.
Thank you, Nick. Anyone here in the room, IDA? Last chance. Chance. All right, we'll close public comment, and next we have Ian McMeans with the report of the manager.
Yes, Manager McGill is out tonight, so instead I'm giving the manager's report. The IDA meeting schedule for 2025 is as follows, with meetings on August 12th and November 11th, 2025 to fulfill our obligations for meeting during the year.
Is the August 12th meeting still happening or no?
That's right.
Good question. That
Cancel
may
the
be
August 12th.
postponed. Yeah, that may be postponed to the later August meeting in that case. Which is. Somebody was so excited about our. Yeah, 26th.
August 26th? Okay.
It says August 26th.
We'll correct this and
Yes.
it'll be available online probably in
Yeah.
48 hours.
Yeah, so August 26th and November 11th, 2025. are the next meetings.
Great. Any other questions, comments? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.